Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's talk from Artists United, Innovating Art During Disruption, a panel discussion exploring the impact of COVID-19 on artists. My name is Janis DeLucia. I'm an actor, filmmaker, and coach. I'm on the executive committee with Artists United. Artists United is an international arts advocacy organization with the mission of helping artists connect with each other, to ask for help, to offer help. We're offering this virtual panel to support the arts community, to share experiences and best practices at a time when our industries are going through such rapid change. We have a wonderfully varied panel today. My co-moderator is Renee Richardson. Hi, Renee. Renee is a radio personality. She has a show on KRSH, which I encourage you to check out. She is also the Associate Director of All Within My Hands. Renee, would you tell us a little bit about All Within My Hands?
Yes, happy to. It's nice to see everybody. And the work I do with All Within My Hands is, we're a foundation. I call it a family foundation, though the family is the band Metallica. Perhaps you've heard of them. They're kind of big. So my job with them is to support the entities that they believe in, and we support workforce education in the trades. So we work with the American Association of Community Colleges and make sure people who want to work in the trades can work in the trades. So we do funding there. And we're in the fight against hunger. So we provide a lot of support to Feeding America. And especially right now, that's where our priorities lie, in helping people eat. So I am the Associate Director of a family foundation for this wonderful band. And then I also play radio. And I'm thrilled to be with you guys to moderate today. And thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Renee. That's fantastic. I love that you say you play radio. I like that. Radio. Next, we have Gary Shunk. Gary, hi. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi. Gary is based in Chicago. You are a man of multiple talents, Gary. Gary works in the financial services industry, serving wealth owning and business owning families. Gary also has an MSW and a background in psychology. And Gary, what I'd like you to do is tell us a little bit about the work you're doing in the Chicago theater community right now.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I was approached actually this past couple of weeks because of what's going on with COVID, and that, theaters are dark. And I used to, when I was independent in my consulting work, I worked with a professional theater company, their executive and artistic leadership around their leadership development and refinement of how they work with each other and lead and affect the community that they serve. Subsequently, I've stayed connected socially to that community. And a week ago, I had a colleague of mine who was the former executive director of a theater. And we were talking about COVID, and I said to her, hey, if I can help, let me know. And she connected me immediately with it's called the League of Chicago Theaters, and they are going to have a meeting next week, which I'll facilitate, leaders to talk about the uncertainties that everybody's experiencing right now. And I look forward to being helpful there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Gary. Next, we have Bill Strauss. Hi, Bill.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you today?
Good, good.
Good. Bill is a film producer. He is also a sales agent in the film industry. He's the founder of Bridge Independent, and with screen credits of Straight Outta Compton, fantastic, and The Last Rites of Joe May, and a number of other films. Bill, will you tell us a little bit about the work that you do?
Sure. I'm a former, actually started as a screenwriter and then migrated to the other side and was a studio. I worked at New Line Cinema in Los Angeles. And so I was like a studio guy for a while. Then I became a producer and grew up mostly in New York, moved back to New York in 2012 and have most of my day is on film sales. but have I missed the part. I produced about 5 movies in that period. But in New York, most of my day is about film sales, which are films that play at Sundance or South by Southwest or Tribeca. And I'm the middleman between distributors and independent films. And then, the rest of my day is devoted to trying to get films going. And that's pretty much what I do. Nice.
It's going to be interesting to talk to you about how things are evolving.
Okay.
Next, I would like to introduce you to Hani Korngold. Hani, hi.
Hello, Janis.
You are in Colorado, correct?
Yes, beautiful Colorado.
Beautiful.
Most of our time here, but split it now between LA and Georgia now. Georgia's the city for film these days, so we've set up there as well.
Not bad. Hani is the founder of Cinevantage Productions. And Cinevantage Productions, if I'm correct, Hani, specializes in bringing true stories of inspiration and hope to the screen. Is that correct?
That's true. Yeah, we originally started in nonfiction television years ago. We started producing travel television shows and that sort of thing. And I never really thought our company would be moving into doing features and documentaries. But once I started finding, or I should say these stories found me, that I just knew we needed to get involved in bringing to the screen. It was a slippery slope. So we've been, headfirst into producing some really great stories, all true stories.
Wow. And that's fantastic. I love how you say that those films found you. Later on, I'd like you to talk a little bit about Philanthro Films. We'll move on from here, but I want to make sure that we mention that later on.
Right.
Beautiful. Next, we have Ash Grayson. Hi, Ash.
Hello.
Nice to see you. And what is your backdrop currently?
It's just my office. I can make it a lot more fun.
Oh, you had other backdrops earlier, so I was looking at it. There you go. There you go.
And if you guys aren't good, I'll definitely go here.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
And then this is another, just a real exciting.
That's great.
But my eyes, even though I've got my glasses on, my eyes are not the greatest. And I thought, is that the backdrop of a cathedral somewhere?
Well, if you want, I've got 7 kids. So if this goes on another hour, I will carry my camera in the other room and you guys can see live action Lord of the Flies. Bedtime every night in here.
All right. Beautiful. I love that. Well, in Ash's other life, sitting in cathedrals or fathering kids, you are a filmmaker, correct? Editor?
I've done a little everything. So I started on the film side and now I've moved more into producing, marketing, which is interesting because I'm a huge still advocate for artists because you don't have a job as a marketer unless people can go make stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Good point. That's a really good point. And you have a strong background in music as well.
Yeah. I mean, here's another fun fact. The band Hanson Mbop was the best men in my wedding. How about that?
Oh my God.
That's fantastic.
So cool.
That is really great.
One of the last concerts I ever saw was Hanson, and not because of the band, because of all the girls screaming at the band.
Yeah, exactly.
Renee, I'm proud of you. That's fantastic. All right, beautiful. And last but not least, we have Natasha Arsalan. Natasha gets a huge gold star because she has joined our conversation from London, where it is now almost 2:15, correct? In the morning?
It is 1 o'clock. 1:15.
1:15.
Yeah, I think I still win. I think that counts.
Yes, you do. You still get the gold star. You still get the gold star, if not platinum. So Natasha is the founder of a UK-based online auction company. And this is, to me, I mean, maybe I may not have done enough research on this, but to me, this was a new concept, auctioning art, an online-based company for auctioning art. Is that correct? Is it a relatively new industry?
what makes us original is that it's the first auction house to specialize in emerging artists.
Emerging artists.
Artists straight out of art schools from all over the world. We could connect them with collectors, again, globally. So, yeah.
And you've got some beautiful, I encourage people to go to the website. We will publicize links for all of our panelists after the panel today. I encourage you to go to the Awk Art website and take a look at the art, because it's absolutely beautiful. And you've also got, it's a nice price point for your artists. You've got emerging artists, but the price point is lovely, so they can actually live off of this, which is fantastic.
Exactly, yeah. We support them, we help them pay their rent and get them to the next phase in their career, which is, what our initial mission was.
Beautiful. Renee?
Yeah.
Take this back to you. Will you kick us off?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. Absolutely. In fact, Natasha, I wanted to talk to you first about this because we are discussing innovating art during disruption. I can say it. But what you've done and what you have created, it seems to my mind, this scenario that we're in, where more people are online and more people are trusting online communications, how is your business changing? Is it actually growing because of the way people are living now? I'd love to hear from you first.
Thank you. It's a good question, because I think the word confidence, a lot of, the art world, because the visual art world is quite behind in this, in technical, their attitude to tech. And I think this whole pandemic has just forced people to change their mindset and develop a new confidence in, whether it's buying art online or experiencing art online, whether that's a virtual viewing room or, a webinar. People are a lot more open-minded. So I think that, it's been a good thing for us, because I feel like we already had that infrastructure in place, and now people have the confidence to maybe spend a little bit more because everyone is kind of doing it. So it doesn't feel like such a jump in the deep end, because it's just becoming the norm.
Yeah, I've certainly seen it with music, because that is my background. More musicians are becoming more comfortable with putting their music out online, and more people like me who love the live concert experience are finding ourselves online to work this way. And I would imagine, Bill, that you're experiencing something similar. I'm bringing up all the positives before we get too negative and we need a resident therapist in the room. But Bill, I'd like to hear from you as well, because what you do is connect people to movies.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting time because obviously films can't go into production right now. So I think going back to the sales side, it's a great time to have a completed film. So on that side, it's actually been very busy. Because we don't really know how long this is going to go on for, and the streamers need content, the distributors need content, and so it's actually I'd call it a strange little corner of the arts that's very active right now. But on the producing side, I think one interesting thing is people have more time to read. When you're sending someone a script to read. Or you're, people are just at home, and so it's easier to sort of it's easier to put projects together and have them poised to go, but nobody really knows when they can actually go right now.
Yeah. Hani, let's get to you. Hani, sorry, I said your name incorrectly. How are you?
I answered anything in 2 syllables. So you're good.
How are you adapting during this time, and how is your industry doing and the work that you do?
Development is still moving forward. And so that's always, a hungry monster that requires so much work and so much attention. So the development side of things is still moving. Things have shifted a little bit, the kinds of things that we're focusing on right now. It's kind of like Bill said, if you've got finished products or if you've got things that are, close to being finished, suddenly those take on a priority of their own. And then we're starting to put things to the top of our list that, like, for instance, we're involved in producing an animated film right now, and production hasn't stopped on that at all. So that's suddenly become a lot more important to us. But it's just a matter of sort of shifting and pivoting. But oddly enough, it feels like I've been busier than ever right now. Even though we're not actively, there's things we've had to put on the back burner and we're not actively in production, everything else just seems to have ramped up. So it's been a really busy time.
I mean, I have to agree with you 100%. And this is where I am going to pull Gary into things, because there's a little bit of guilt when I talk about how busy I am to friends of mine who everything has stopped for them. And I almost feel like I can't not take a call or not do something, because I'm like, holy cow, I am like really checking off boxes and going and going. Gary, have you heard that this is a phenomenon at all?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The first, one thing I like to say is this is a time to develop emotional intelligence, because we're just swimming in it. And most of it is unpleasant. I would say that, we're, what is it? It's 8 weeks now, maybe, that we've been kind of in, sheltering in place. And so essentially we're experiencing what I would call sustained fear, which then turns into anxiety. And anxiety people deal with in different ways. Some people shut down, withdraw. Some people get active and overeat. It affects your sleep. It affects your concentration and focus and so forth. And then there are days when you just don't have any energy to do anything. And there's a business owner, a friend of mine, and he had to close everything down, and he was on a call and called me afterwards, and he says, I'm feeling guilty because my employees, I'm going to pay them through May, but dude, I got to pay them more. So he was wrestling with the guilt piece, and also the sense of not being active or producing anything, and just feeling stuck. So lots of different feelings going on. Yeah.
That is something I've also heard is from my artist friends who some are being wildly creative. Certainly some of my musician friends are having to create, slides for their video thing, or they're doing more, they're making little videos for their Facebook page or whatever. Ash, how has it been for you, for the people that you've work on promoting and marketing for? Have you had anybody that's been like, I am just frozen, I can't work?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We had the last theatrical movie I did was a movie called I Still Believe, where we moved our date from March 20th to March 13th. So we got in a week before everything shut down. So we had a rather dramatic pivot to theatrical at home, or whatever we were calling it. And it did quite well. Not at liberty, I don't think, to share the numbers, but it did probably as well as it would have done in theaters the second weekend, which is encouraging. And then we did some pretty unique things, put it into drive-ins, which many stayed open. And then we're re-releasing it. Home entertainment hit #1 today, which was great on Amazon. And then we're re-releasing it to drive-ins next week with a little paid support. So, I mean, it was a quick pivot. There's a few people that did get a little frozen, but what I've been doing is working pro bono with some people who had to get their stuff just straight to digital, just because the theaters are going to be so, well, we're all uncertain about what's going to happen.
Right.
And once we're back, we've got so many big titles. I work in a lot of indies, so many big titles are just going to dominate. So fortune favors the bold and the quick moving. It's definitely spider monkey time in a world of 800-pound gorillas. So
yeah. Well, one of the other things that's happening for all of us as we are certainly adapting, and every person has to pivot. Pivot has been my favorite word since this pandemic has taken over. But I'd like to know from each of you about discoveries you've made since the change in the way we live our lives, and perhaps discoveries that that are for the better for you and that you will keep in place moving forward. Does anybody want to start with that? Does anybody have thoughts? Like the fact that I never want to drive again?
It's not really I wouldn't say it's a discovery, but I think it's the realization that we really don't have control over a lot of things. And I guess for the first 2 weeks, when everything started really slowing down for us at Orchard, it was kind of like just accepting that there was very little we could do about the situation. And it was like a switch in mindset as to trying to find opportunities in the pace and with the shift. And it was like looking at the negative space as a positive space and filling time with innovation, learning, brainstorming. And we built the virtual gallery in about 7 days.
Wow.
And yeah, so I guess, I guess it's also about like enjoying that process and not just being caught up in fear. And I'm sure Gary will speak more about that. But yeah, that was my 2 cents from this whole situation.
Renee, I heard a quote once that I think goes to that word pivot. I mean, it's taken on so much new meaning for so many of us. But the quote was something like, pivot, it's when you give up what you've planned for something much greater.
So
nice.
I really like that. And I've really held on to that because, we can't hold with a death grip our plans, especially in times like this, but, having the attitude that there is something greater. And I think that all of us can probably speak to the fact that there has been amazing things that have come out of this. When we have that attitude and that posture.
Yeah.
There have been enormous discoveries and enormous changes that have been to the positive. And Gary, I know we've been talking about people having trouble sleeping, but people are also in some cases getting more sleep and coming to grips with the fact that perhaps their life formerly was too planned, too organized, too committed. And so, I realize I'm getting us a little off topic from the world of the arts, but I think this is what we're all going through right now. And Hani, what you're talking about with the pivot, it's going with that's part of that is about going with the flow of the world. What is the flow of the world right now? And by combating it, it only creates blockages. So anyway, sorry.
I'll comment, and thanks, Janis.
Please.
And the others. Yeah, the one, there is my thing is the discovery is there's a silver lining here, and we're all discovering what those things are uniquely particular to us. One thing I just wanted to name for everybody that I've been talking about on a lot of calls with a lot of different groups of people is that, 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, what was normal for us is gone.
Right.
I went to Starbucks, I think, for the first time in the past week. There was one open I found, but, I was going every day. And that's, it's a simple ritual that I would do. And all the grocery store rituals or other rituals that we would do have been, I'd say the norms that we have been skewed. And so that's affected our brains. and therefore our moods and how we communicate and relate. Some people are engaged in their creativity, and some people are feeling really dead, stale, stuck. And the one thing I just want to offer is that when we have these losses, what we're experiencing is grief. And Kubler-Ross, a psychiatrist back in the late 60s, studied loss and grief and came up with 5 stages. And so we individually, but collectively, are kind of experiencing those. And, the first one is denial. And, we could, just say that, the leaders of countries and the one that we're in at some level, there's a lot of leaders that are in denial about what's going on. We see number 2, which is anger. So there's a sense of frustration, and anger is an emotion that basically wants to say, no, I don't want that. It's threatening what it is that I have, and I'm going to lose what I have or not get what I want. So it's hot. The next stage 3 is bargaining. And that's a negotiation inside of ourselves and also outside. So should I wear a mask? Masks were a question mark, and now depends on where you live. People are wearing them all the time. The next stage is 4, which is, the old standard version was depression. We could say despair, sadness, etc. And so that's evidence of loss. And then finally, number 5 is acceptance. And all of us collectively are experiencing those things. And if you pop on the television and watch the news, you can actually see it in play. The reframe I make to the silver lining is that this is a period of, the word is liminality. It's liminal. We're between one, we left a certain way of being and we're not at the new one yet, whatever that will be. So we're betwixt and between. And really, that's where art happens. It happens in that kind of space in between. And so the paradox of this time in some ways is that it's a lot is cooking. There's an alchemy going on, and there's a lot cooking in our souls, that some is coming out and some will be coming out in the future.
Actually, I think that's a great way to put it, Gary. I love the liminal concept, because we are between worlds right now. Mm. And I'd like to step in and ask our filmmaker, producer, sales agent group. We've got Honey and Ash and Bill. I have, as part of this question of discovery, this isn't completely discovery, but I'd like you to look in your crystal balls and tell us a little bit about what you see the changes in film production looking like. What are sets going to look like? Are we going to, in the world of distribution and sales, if things are getting produced now that we're completed, when we return, is there going to be a lag? Is there going to be a period where there's a dearth of work? And so I realize I posed this to all 3 of you, so any one of you step in, whichever one likes.
I'll step in.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, I think that so much depends upon like a second wave of the virus. I think a lot of people are going to try to create set situations where people are distanced. I've been reading about some of these propositions, and I think that what you're going to see is more sort of something more akin to guerrilla filmmaking, lighter crews. And I don't know if it's going to work. I think that animation, as you were talking about before, is viable. I think documentaries are viable, because you can make those with a smaller crew. I think you're going to see more CGI. But I think producers are going to have to, producers and filmmakers are going to have to become very creative. But I think most experts are expecting a second wave, like this hammer dance thing that people have talked about. So I feel like we could take a step forward and 2 steps back. And so that, that goes to just, going back to the question about distribution, like, okay, maybe the quality of stuff that you're able to stream in 6 months is, we're going to be filling the lull with like such, you're not going to get Sundance, but you're going to get like Bob's Film Festival. So, I don't know what you're going to see on TV in 6 months, but that could happen too, and also with sports programming. Like, I think you're seeing that with how well I have a sports documentary I'm trying to sell right now. And I feel like I have a great chance because, there's a real glut there too.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not even a sports fan, and I'm completely obsessed with the ESPN Last Dance. Oh my gosh, fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is.
Yeah, I think to what Bill's saying is, who knows what's going to happen if there's a second wave. There's certainly going to be a bottleneck situation happening with production, and the smaller guerrilla type productions, the under $500,000 film that a small crew can go out and shoot and finish. The biggest issue with the larger productions, even though I know of several that are ready to go, and they've put a lot of really smart things into place in terms of process and trying to keep everybody safe. The problem is the insurance companies. They just will not insure, casts. So while you have all these things in place, if the insurers won't insure, the money's not going to release, and it's just nothing's going to go anywhere. So that's a piece of the puzzle that is going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I can't remember, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, boy, there's going to be, if there's someone willing to step into that insurance world right now, and just because it is kind of very precarious.
A lot of it is going to be speed to market too, right? Like how fast can you get there? Like Bill was, referring to how fast you can get there. So there's going to be like a million, I'm sure, Blumhouse type of movies where, you've got this type of stuff. It's like zombies showed up on my Zoom call, right? Or something. And the first couple will do really well. Like they will do really well. So there is a speed to market, and that's what I see on my end. There's a couple movies I won't mention that looks like they're going to get a drive-in day and date release, which is a brand new thing. And it looks like they're going to put up way bigger numbers than they ever would have. And it's just because of the speed to market. They're lucky enough to have a finished movie right now.
So Ash, you're telling us that drive-ins are back.
Yeah, I'm a big time futurist, but I was raised by Depression era grandparents. So I got a unique perspective. There were a handful of drive-ins in the 30s. They were largely marketed as places to come and be safe with your family. By the end of the 1960s, there were 4,000 drive-ins. Currently there's 374 that represent about 630 screens. And I think they're going to have a pretty massive comeback for a bunch of other reasons, not just for movies, but it's a place you can do concerts and all kinds of interesting things. And super interesting factoid from your data nerd on the call. The average age, well, average is not the right, but the median age for a drive-in attendant right now is only 36. So it's a younger millennial audience. The same people who won't pay 99 cents for an Ed Sheeran song, but they'll pay $150 to see him in concert. So,
well, the average age for a drive-in audience member, like 40, 50 years ago, was like 17. So.
Yeah. And those kids don't have cars, and it's very expensive to Uber to a drive-in.
But what I'm hearing, I had a conversation earlier today before this call with Gary, and I told Gary that my mind keeps hearkening back to the 70s. And this is part of it. Part of what I'm hearing from this conversation right now is that we're going to be seeing some grassroots films, documentaries, guerrilla style filming, And then there's going to be the big budget CGI that can get the insurance and maybe don't need to have actors in place because they're doing CGI. So there, it seems like there's going to be kind of this spectrum.
Yeah, they're all events, right? So those are both events. So like when I take my kids and they want to go out on a picnic, you know what they want to do? Go on a picnic. They don't ask me what we're eating, right? So if you can make your movie an event by doing it at the drive-in, doing pop-up theaters, really interesting things, then those independent things that were harder to get into the 26 screen AMC suddenly feel like an event, especially to younger people. So
the drive-in thing, I don't know if you guys, you kind of alluded to it, Ash. They did have a concert in Denmark. I think there was a band that did a drive-in concert, and it was great. People loved it.
Yeah, and it's going to be the easiest, safest thing for people to do, and it stuck for 30 years when it happened the first time. As far as there's a great book for everybody, and I don't get residuals on it. It's called the Power of Habit. Everybody should read that absolutely right now. It's a little dated, but it really goes into why we have certain habits, and then when things change, it's generational change, right? And the power of habit is super strong, and people are consuming video at a rate that they've never had before. And one of the things I'm sure you all have seen going around, that little meme that people post that say, "Well, I just finished Netflix."
Yeah,
you know, they're looking for stuff.
Yeah, it's very true.
Natasha, how does this translate to your industry? I realize that that AukArt is an online system, but do you see events like this that will be produced in the world of studio art?
Well, there's a lot of a lot of online experiences. So we haven't got as far as drive-ins, but it's more about having a Zoom or a Zoom or a webcam chat with an artist in their studio, creating virtual spaces. So
you're not seeing a shift toward the real gallery, but the virtual gallery, from what you're telling me, the virtual gallery is becoming more intimate. Or people are getting used to it, or they're getting used because there's something here. There's something here. I would envision that speaking with an artist creates a connection, creates an intimacy with the work of art, which you may not be able to do if you were at the gallery.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because there's a lot of VR at the moment going on in the art world, but it's funny how a lot of degree shows, for example, are being cancelled at the schools. So they're being forced to go online, and the students are really angry about that. I don't know how it is in the US, but in the UK, there's uproar that a lot of the schools are hosting virtual degree shows, and then some of them, mainly outside of London, are just delaying them until the end of the year. But there are big campaigns, and it's just interesting how people are reacting, because I guess, creating a virtual gallery is a different experience. And I think there's a lot of fear, and I think that there's the old perception of online as being less than. And I guess there is a completely different presence of being in a physical space as to being in an online space. But right now we don't really have. Yeah, maybe someone needs to build a drive-in gallery. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to get offline and just, whack something out.
I think you should patent that idea.
Yeah.
Well, and something I did hear you say there is that the idea that your work has been doing this and connecting the artist directly to the art buyer and the collector. But something I also heard was this more intimate nature of perhaps getting to talk to the artist directly And for some, I would imagine some artists are pretty private and they express themselves through their creations, but really don't want to be that close and have these, you know, Zoom conversations with the person that's buying their art. Have you encountered anything like that?
Yeah, and we launched an online magazine to overcome that. So we have still images and we have an intimate interview with the artist so that they, you know, they have their boundaries, but we're still able to understand and enjoy their practice. And I think, yeah, again, being online, it's like you have to give the audience as much as possible to learn and to have the confidence and the, you know, to understand their work in order to buy it. So yeah, whether that's in the virtual gallery, whether that's through our online magazine, whether that's, you know, we've got an In the Studios series, which was pre-filmed just before lockdown, like literally 2 weeks before lockdown, where yeah, we went into the studio and filmed them, and yeah, crazy.
Honey, we mentioned your philanthro films a little bit at the beginning, and I'd like to learn a little bit more, but it certainly seems that much of what we're all going through right now will play nicely into the work that you plan to do with your film company. Can you talk about the philanthro films?
Yeah. It just seems like so many of the projects that we were getting involved in, whether documentary or even some of the films that we deal with that are true stories, they all tended to have, you know, issues or themes that were all about impact. So it made great sense to form a nonprofit to support the development and sort of the propagation of the impact of the theme of the film. Yeah. So we just started that this year, and we're really excited about it. It's going to have an education and sort of an advocacy piece to it as well. But we found during the pandemic, we instantly turned into sort of a training mode. We knew there were so many, just like we're doing here today, you know, there are so many artists and on the film side, you know, screenwriters and producers that were feeling stuck and needed, you know, inspiration and help and a leg up. So we took what we were going to do in a live event in Atlanta and we turned it to an online event. Ash participated. It was an all-day event. Cool. And we were able to do, because of the fact that we just pivoted quickly, we had probably 3 times as many in attendance than we would have had in person.
Wow.
So, you know, by some of the support of the nonprofit and that sort of thing, we were able to really take advantage of, hey, let's do this free event for people to help them get unstuck and all of that. So we've been able to use a nonprofit in some really unique ways, but I think it's all about impact.
That's fantastic. There's a new kind of volunteerism emerging in this time, which I'm absolutely loving. And
yeah, I think we all are really, we're all in the same boat. And, you know, I'm a big believer in a rising tide sails all ships. And so I just, you know, it's all we can do to give each other a leg up or to help someone get further along in their project. Or, you know, I think one of the most satisfying things for me that I heard that came out of that day, that out of that conference, was comments like, I was stuck and I had several breakthroughs. You know, when I hear that, it's like, okay, this is why we do what we do.
Right.
You know, that's why we're doing this today.
Is this speaking to a fact that perhaps prior to the pandemic, writer's block would occur and perhaps you wouldn't go into a room like this, you wouldn't go into a Zoom room and you wouldn't collaborate in this way? So actually this is a little light or a bell that's going off in me, because I've been thinking in a somewhat negative sense that collaboration is different now, that you can't get as connected with people. But actually, I'm hearing many stories of quite the opposite. And that's what I'm hearing from you. So that's encouraging.
Has anybody else found collaboration to be better in this time for projects you're working on?
I don't know so much about better, but just different, maybe.
Different. Yeah.
I think the things that you know, we were not willing to look at before, and the methods that we were not willing to look at before, we've made work. And I know for me, I've been surprised at the productivity with some of these new methods. So, you know, it's been a real eye opener, and it's been an eye opener how much, you know, we've been able to get done in these alternative ways.
Yeah. I can speak for, you know, working for very talented musicians in Metallica. They've been having Zoom conferences because they're all in different places and they're all sheltering in place. And a song came out of it and they released it. And it was wild to see these guys who never play on their computer. I mean, they play their instruments and they are a touring band. But they sat down and they wrote Blackened 2020 and released it just last week. So, you know, to see those guys do something like that as a fan, it was cool. So I'm enjoying the different ways that people are getting creative and staying active. As a lover of art and a lover of music, it's been entertaining, but like you said, Ash, I'm running out of things to watch.
Well, for me, I'm just like no longer the weird guy that suggests, hey, what if we just all stayed in our pajamas and got on video? Like, I was like always good with that. Honey will tell you. And everyone's like, you know what? That sounds like a good idea.
Sounds like a really smart idea.
I'll just add that, you know, part of what we're talking about, and Hani named, you know, without naming, is that there's this notion of empathy that we all need from each other, but we're also able to give to each other. And so I'm finding that, you know, meetings like this and social connections that we're making, you know, electronically, there is possible, you know, connections where empathy happens and people name what they're feeling. And my thing about emotion is that when you name it, it has motion. And when you feel heard and validated by others, then that collaborative bridge starts to happen, that intimacy and that sense of connectedness. And kind of like what Renee was talking about with the musicians, you know, showing up in a context that they're not used to, you know, creativity can come out of anything.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you know, your question before about what surprises you about the how things have changed, for me has been a little bit like how little it's changed, which is really strange, just in terms of the from when I sit down to start working to when I'm done working. Like, most of what I do during the day is like, I'm watching films, I'm on the phone, I'm answering emails. And so in some ways it's like, other than doing meetings here and there, you know, it's like, it's more similar in a way than I would have thought. So I don't know how to answer that question about collaboration, because what I do isn't necessarily as creative. It's reading a script, it's watching a movie, it's, you know, talking on the phone. And, you know, it's almost like becoming the compulsory, how are you feeling? First 5 minutes, you know, everybody okay? Yeah. And then it's the same. So for me, I guess that would be one of my biggest surprises, is how much it hasn't changed. I don't know how to answer that last question.
Actually, that is the answer. That's, I mean, yeah. And I think that also contributes a little bit to what some people are saying about the guilt that they feel, because for some people, either they're busier or things.
I've been busier too. I've been really busy. Yeah.
Ask me in another week when it would have been the week that would have been taking place.
That's right.
You know, there's definitely a little bit of, you know, sadness about that. And I think when some of those things really start rolling around, there's going to be a little different emotion surrounding it, because those are such places of connection for us. And there's so much that happens, and there's just so much life and, you know, and validation and all the things that come from those kinds of events. it's going to be a little sad.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Ash, I wanted to ask you a little bit, and excuse me, I'm typing notes, so forgive me. What are the changes that you're seeing in social media from the platform side and in features that we're offering that are new? How are artists using social media differently now?
Well, I mean, I think everybody, every panelist and everybody viewing has seen, and it would be true probably of the Metallica guys, like artists are doing things they've never done before. Guys, you know, generational artists that just don't go on Instagram and post stuff are now doing, some of them are doing daily performances, right? Like it's interesting because it is going, you know, I've got a couple of producers who've been like, hey, why are you working on this for free? And, you know, and I'm like, I think history is going to remember who showed up to serve. I just think that's what's going to happen. Who showed up to serve? And it's easy to go on social media and focus on all the bad stuff and like make it a place that you know, say, oh, don't go there. That's where people do bad things. But there's also something, not to take over Gary's job. But one really interesting thing about humans is what we focus on, we create more of, either in actuality or perception. Like if you buy, I remember the first time I bought like this Nissan big van to haul my kids around in. And I'm like, I'm the only one in the world with one of these. And then pretty soon, like that's all I saw everywhere. I'm like, everybody has one. I thought I was. And that's the same type of thing in social media. So I think a lot of these artists that are now writing songs and doing, like, I thought this was the future of the music business when Napster showed up, was that artists would stop going off, hiding away in a studio for 3 years and having to remarket to the world that they're here again. I thought what we would see is what we're seeing today, which is artists saying, I got an idea for a song. Let's see if the people who love me think it's any good.
And just rolling it out.
Here we go. What do you say? Good? Not good? Great? Okay. You get 10 or 12 of those and you got an album, right? So artists have adapted because that's how they live, right? Is to perform. And if you can't go out on stage, I didn't really want to do a Zoom concert, but I also like want an excuse to do my hair and get on my pajamas and connect with people, right? So it's been great. I'm glad those tools are in place.
Yeah.
The bad ways that we use them aren't fun, but I think if you focus on what could happen, like, you know, what someone's going to organize the big hands across America, across the world, whatever, super Zoom thing, you know, and it's going to be more people will see it than ever saw anything, right? So what's interesting, I was going through the data with Facebook, and more people participated in a church service this Easter than in any church service in human history,
Really?
right? Well, because they didn't have to put on their pants, right? Part of it, to be honest. You know how hard it is to get 7 kids dressed up for Easter Sunday? And the picture I posted in our group may have been from last year, but no one knows. Like, I thought he was 4 now. But I think it's just it's a great time to be an artist. Like artists, like throughout history, have thrived in like uncertain times because that's what people turn to. You know, like I don't know who to believe in this science and that, but look at how that pretty painting. Listen to this wonderful song. Watch this.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how to make money, but I can tell you. I can tell you it's the best time to be an artist.
Fantastic.
Well, and bless the artists, because it's what's keeping the rest of us sane, you know?
Yep.
Even if it is the Tiger King, you know?
Renee, I think it's time to wrap things up. I know, and I want to thank you all, but we do have one final thing to do. But first, thank you all for participating in this. I love the fact that This is a varied group. I'm really appreciative of all of you. You've been illuminating, each one of you has been illuminating in a different way. We have a lightning round of questions. This requires no thought or very little thought. We actually want you to just respond on the fly. We'll ask each one of you a different question. So Bill, I'll start with you. What do you look at or listen to when you want to shift from the craziness of this time?
I have a list of the 100 greatest jazz artists on my phone, and I tell Alexa, I pick one and I tell Alexa to play them, and that transitions me from the workday to the dinner and maybe a glass of wine.
Fantastic, I love it.
Yeah.
Gary, what is the book by your bedstand or on your bed table?
Actually, you know, the American Academy of Poets had a Shelter in Poem online thing last week, and the last poem was Thanks by W.S. Merwin. So I have Merwin next to my bed.
Wow, what a great answer. Oh my gosh. Honey, Honey, I have this question for you. If you want to have a truly intimate conversation, would you Zoom or would you phone?
I would Zoom.
You would Zoom.
I could look someone in the eye.
Really? Very nice. Very nice. Natasha, if you could have a Zoom call with any two people in history, living or dead, who would you choose to have a Zoom call with?
Oh, wow. Gosh.
That's a tough one.
That is a really difficult question. Blimey. Can't you ask me what book is next to my bed? That's like so.
Okay, you can do that. You can do that. What book is next to your bed?
The book is Into the Magic Shop, but I'm now thinking who I'd have a Zoom call with. Probably Peggy Guggenheim.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
that'd be quite cool. Do I have to pick another one, or is that?
No, actually, I think Peggy Guggenheim is perfect.
It's enough for two people, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Ash, what's the first city you would travel to if you could travel right now?
Oh boy, yeah. So I had to cancel off of my schedule. I was going to have a lovely Mother's Day with my saintly wife, and then we were going to get on a plane to go to Nice Sunday night. So I would definitely do that.
I am so there with you. I spent a little bit of time in Nice a long time ago. And then you just go up the hill to Italy. So you're fine. Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all for joining us. We'd like to ask our audience to join us on May 14th for our next panel, Advocacy and Arts, a look at innovation in the world of nonprofits. Check out artistsunited.net when you have a chance. If you have a little bit of money left over from your stimulus check and you would like to donate to our organization, we are a 501c3, it's tax deductible, and we would greatly appreciate it. Again, I would just like to say thank you to our participants. Thank you, Miss Renee. I've had such a good time with you. Thank you very much. We have two people behind the scenes that I would like to say thank you to, Catharine Ingram and Jennifer Wallace. Catharine Ingram is our tech guru extraordinaire. She has been producing this event last week and this week. And Jen Wallace is she's the guru. I would say Jen Wallace is the guru. She is the chair of Artists United, and she is a phenomenal person. Thank you to both of you. We look forward to hopefully seeing you again next week. Thanks again. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.